Good evening. And if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to 105.3 out of Mississippi and 107.7 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana, to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. And this is the Angel Rock. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. I was almost saying I'm one of the hosts because I do have a second show on the network on Thursdays that I started with a very good friend of mine about a year and a half ago, really gifted medium. Angel channeler. He's a TikToker. His name is David Hansel, and it's a thing at the foot of the bed, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, Ken Stockla, I am live right now, so you tuned in at the perfect time. Hi, Kevin. I'll say hi to you as well, Z-Sun Dragon. Anyways, back to what we're doing, and then we'll say hi to everybody, I promise. If you've never been here before, welcome. And thank you to everybody that's returning and listening and joining us, like Z-Sun Dragon and Ken Stockla. If you want to join in the conversation, because this network's been around for 25 plus years, we broadcast to every country in the world. And I thank you for all the people that do tune in. I always tell people when I'm sending it to a new potential guest, please don't always just look at social media numbers, because we do broadcast on every app place that produces or shares talk radio and podcasts. We are on there, so we've got some beautiful numbers for this show, and I'm so grateful for all the people that listen. But 80% of you listen only, so you can't comment while we're live, and we'd love to have you join the conversation. So if you'd like to, where you're going to head over to is you can go to my Facebook profile, which is Lorilei Potvin. I will be sharing that in just a second, live, actually, the live stream. But you can go to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio on Facebook and YouTube. It's also live on my YouTube, The Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin. I'm going to let my amazing guest, most of you may recognize her because she's been here many times. She's like a sister to me, and you guys love her. So she's back for part two, which I will address in a few minutes. I got to get all the housekeeping out of the way, and she can tell you where she's streaming tonight too. So if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends and family. Like I said, we've been around for a long time with this network. We stream multiple shows daily live, and when we're not, and that's 7 days a week, by the way. And when we're not streaming live, the archive server dips into the last 25 plus years of shows, randomly picks past shows, present shows, and there really is something for everybody here. That's actually why we have two names for the network, believe it or not. It's not just all paranormal, which we do love, but there really is something for everyone. I think we've got almost 40 hosts, by the way, and we're still building, still adding. Don't forget, by the way, I'm going to give him a shout out, newest show on the network, and he is coming on, Father Sean Whittington. I believe he's on Eli Roth's League of Exorcists. That guy is hilarious. He is amazing. I got to meet him. His show is 5 p.m. Fridays for an hour on UPRN here, and such a personable gentleman. He's got an amazing co-host. One of these days, I'm going to be on his show. I think it's in the new year. He's coming on, I believe, at the end of September. So you want to look forward to that. So there's one of our new hosts here. Also, if you want to watch us on TV, you can actually see us there. You're going to head over to Roku, go to the channel store. You're going to type in UFO space P as in paranormal. There's a drop down list. You're looking for probably the third or fourth one down, which is UFO space paranormal and United Public Radio. And that's us. And you can watch us on TV. Now, like I said, if you want, where you want to comment, and I don't really have a script, you guys. I just talk from memory. So sometimes I forget things. So like I said, you can go to YouTube, the channels I mentioned. Also, we are streaming on Canada's Most Haunted. We are streaming to the Angel Rock. That's my Instagram. But the only thing is they don't integrate the comments in with the rest here. So I'll try and pop back and forth to say hello to you. I promise I'm not ignoring you, because if you've been to this show or my second show on Thursday nights, you know that you guys are the main reason why we do this. Sonya and I have amazing chats when we're not on air, but we'd like to share this with you, because I always tell all my guests, I got an incredible, amazing, intelligent, loving, kind audience, and I couldn't be more proud of y'all because you ask great questions. So I think I remembered everything. Now I'll reintroduce our guest tonight, because she is actually back here for the second night, or I should say the second episode that we're going to be talking about this. So her name is Sonya Roy. She's an extremely gifted bilingual a Canadian medium, Master Holistic Healer, including she's a Master Reiki Healer, a Shamanic Practitioner, as well as an author of numerous incredible books. Sonya was previously an RCMP officer and uses her life experiences and knowledge, as well as exceptional abilities, to help guide and teach others, to help people to empower them and recognize their divine self. Now, we're going to be continuing the discussion. It was just over a month ago, because she came to tell us about a brand new book. Like, I don't think you had a link for it yet, right, Sonya? So we're going to be continuing the conversation. The title of the book is called Narcissism, 12 Steps to Successfully Heal and Flourish After Narcissistic ABUSE. We have to be careful of that word on YouTube. So welcome, Sonya. I'm so happy to have you back.
Hi. Glad to be back.
I know. Well, like I was saying before we went live, you know, it's like there's an epidemic. I think there's almost like an epidemic of narcissism. Like, I have had narcissists around me my whole life, and I think I was still in my previous house. This is years ago, and I don't know what came up, an article or something, and I started reading, and I went, holy crap, it was like that person was standing in the same room with me. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, when I was doing the research for the book, I was like, is it just me? Because there seems to be so many narcissists around. And through my business at the Redo Wellness Center, we help one-on-one, and we do life coaching, and we do a lot of healing. And a lot of people are coming because they've suffered from a narcissist in their lives, whether it be a parent, a spouse, a boss, a cousin, or whatever, right? And the research actually shows that it's quite prevalent in our society.
It is.
And it's not our imagination. There's quite a few of them. And I think that things like social media, like Facebook and Instagram, allows you to show a version of yourself, not who you are, but what you want the world to see, which tends to help them flourish quite a bit, right? Because it's all about a pretend game, right? So I think that empowered them in some way. So we need to be able to recognize them to be able to heal from it, right? It's always about finding the cause and not just the symptoms. If people come to me and they're like, well, I'm indecisive, I'm stressed, I'm hypervigilant, I can't sleep, I got a series of disorders. But when we go to what caused it, a lot of the time it will be caused by a narcissist to begin with. So that's why tonight we're, last time we focused on the narcissists themselves. Tonight, we all focus on the healing part, because I think that's the important part. We've recognized that we have these individuals in our lives. Now, what can we do to be better and to heal from it and now flourish?
Okay, I think that's awesome. I first say hi to everybody, I promise them. So let me say hi quickly. So like I said, we got Zisan Dragon, or Kevin. He's in Canada. Ken Stockla. He's in actually Canada too. I used to go to high school with his sister years ago. We got Connie Martins. She's Canadian. We have lots of Canadians tonight. Julie Jean Bassett. She's not Canadian, but she's a good friend. She's an animal communicator and fellow shamanic practitioner, similar to the work that you're doing. She's incredible. So are you. I've had some incredible healing work. I have talked about you when you've not been here, about how much you've helped me too. So you definitely want to check Sonya out. By the end of the show, we will be giving you the links anywhere I posted on social media. You will be able to get a hold of her. And I just added your link to Facebook under the banner. Let's make sure we don't miss anybody else. Julie Jean Bassett, you can also find it at juliejeanbassett.com. You got Kathy Hanley Little. She says, hi all. Julie Evans from England. She said, I did, but finally got away, meaning being with a narcissist. And Julie's, like I said, all the way over in England. So it is now almost 11:30 there. So thank you for staying up late to be with us live, Julie. But I agree with you with the narcissist. And for people maybe that don't understand, how does a narcissist become a narcissist? I know, but I'll let you explain it, because I know you probably cover a bit of that in your book as well. So
well, it's difficult to pinpoint, but usually there's two main branches that can grow narcissists. So a narcissist can be grown because they're not born that way, right? A psychopath is born that way, so they actually have a physiology defect that makes them unable to have emotions and feelings. However, a narcissistic is grown, so it's an environmental consequences. So it could be from someone who's never heard the word no, who was overpraised, who was cherished and told that they can do no wrong. So therefore, they come to believe that they can do no wrong, and everything they say is the gospel, and so they believe what they're saying because they've been led that way. Then the other ones are the ones that are extremely fragile and suffered great trauma when they were young, and in order to protect themselves, they started building this fantasy world around them, and an image that is not who they believe it is. So they're extremely fragile, and anything that goes against this fantasy will have them reacting. So they constantly need energy to feed this fantasy bubble. And they're great liars, great manipulators. And when they're young, they're easy to spot. When they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s, it's more difficult because they know what works and what doesn't. So they're getting better at gaslighting and manipulating and isolating the subjects from one another and facilitating their story. Right.
No, because what I've seen, I forgot to tell people what I am actually too. So I should tell you guys, for anybody who hasn't been here, I'm a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor. I'm also a nurse, registered nurse. I'm also budding animal communicator, well versed in near-death experiences and the paranormal. So what I've seen from the research I've done, and we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on healing tonight, guys, how to start healing from this, and not just healing, but flourishing, which is all covered in Sonia's book. So we're going to talk about some of these parts in the book because it's important. But what I've seen too I believe most narcissists actually have a very low self-esteem. They hide it with bravado. They hide it with, they'll never say they're sorry. It's everybody else's fault. And you are very right with many of the things you have mentioned. But the other thing I've seen is when it starts to develop is around between the ages of 2 to, we'll say 3.5, 4, because very much what you said, or also that the child can always only be celebrated for accomplishments, and that's the only time they're celebrated. What they can do or what it looks like to everybody else, and it creates this
like they tend to, their image is very important to them, so they will tend to dress very nice. They present very well, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be pulled towards them
in the beginning. Like narcissists, the ones I have met my entire life, I always say they could sell ice to Eskimos, and they'll love bomb you. They'll give you all this amazing stuff, and then once they've got that feed, you're right, they've got to keep feeding this energy, right? Now the best thing is that we're not like we're yeah. Julie says sounds like who she's been around before. So and Julie Evans says charmers. But okay, so how does somebody get away from a narcissist? But before you answer that, the only thing I'm going to add, I've looked into a lot of research about this, looked at a lot of psychologists, and many that work with narcissists have all said you cannot fix them. Cannot fix them.
The narcissist can't be fixed for the very simple reason that it's a fantasy, or it's not based in reality. So you have to deconstruct. If it's the person that was never told no and always got away with things and stuff like that, they still think they'll get away with it, so they'll never admit to it. For the ones who are structured in the fantasy world, for them to be healed, they would have to admit that their whole life is a construct that comes from fantasy.
Yep.
And so that would break them to pieces and shatter them. And all the tools that a narcissist develops his entire life, and the narcissist can be a woman or a man, right? It's not gender specific. They build all these tools to protect themselves from being exposed. So they'll never expose themselves. They can't do that. They can't cope with, what would come after that. I'd say that it might be possible to somewhat reach the ones that have been built on high praise, but even then, it will take the utter destruction of their entire world. And they're really good at leeching onto people and borrowing from people and using other people to keep themselves afloat. So you know
what it is? I think you said they have to admit there's a problem, right? When anybody reaches out for help, regardless of what it is. If you reach out for help, you're admitting there's a problem and you need some assistance with that problem. So if you can't see that there's a problem and it's everybody else's fault, right? And that's exactly what they do. Once they
Yes,
blame,
they will never take responsibility. They'll never apologize.
Mhm.
Someone said to me, "Well, I've received an apology." I said that the apology was not an heartfelt apology. It was just to quiet you down and bring you back in and pull the reins back and control you again. So, they're all about image and pretending. So on the outside, people will look at them and think they're very successful, wonderful husbands or wives, incredible parents, supportive and always present. And yet the second you come home, that's when there's a price to pay, right? The minute that you made them look somewhat bad, or, you know, made whatever they pretend to be questionable, there's a price to pay. So this price can take the form of mental abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. It can take all these different kind of, there's no limit to how mean they can get and how manipulative and how, personally, I consider it like almost torture. Because there's going to be such a high price to pay that you try, as a, let's say, a child of a narcissist, you do everything you can to never trigger them.
Yep.
Which makes you a type of person as an
A
adult.
people pleaser.
Yes, exactly. Right? Someone who doesn't like confrontation, someone who always wants to get along with everybody. And you're kind of warped when it comes to dealing with normal relationship, because when a narcissist is nice to you, love bombing you, or being kind, that they're only doing that because they want something from you, right? They never give anything for nothing. So when someone is just generally nice to you, you keep asking yourself, what's going to be the price tag of this later on?
Absolutely. And how do you get away? And I'm still surrounded, that some people that know me well, I live with one myself. I grew up with one. I've had them. My ex-husband wasn't one, but pretty well anybody else I've had around me in relationships has. And you get to the point, I was telling you, I just turned 59. I always age myself a year ahead. I guess I'm turning 60 next August. And I keep saying, at this point, I'm still healing from that and taking responsibility for how can I fix things. But it gets to a point where you almost don't trust yourself anymore. You get, like, at the age I'm at now, I don't even want another one. I don't want to train them. I don't want to work. And I'm joking, training with them. I just don't want the energy because I don't trust myself anymore. So that's why I said, I need to read your book. So how does one get away, and how does one start to heal from this? What can we do?
So the first step in the process is to recognize that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. Mm-hmm. That's the first step. That's why it wasn't a waste of time the last time we only talked about it, because people need to recognize that that's the kind of relationship they are stuck in. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that, and I just had a client this week, and she's been with one for 28 years. So she's like, well, he does these things. And I'm like, these are horrible. And she's like, well, it's not as bad as when he did this. And then she starts enumerating all the other things he's done in the past. And I'm like, and so when
that's her norm, 28 years, right? 28 years of it. That's her norm. She's probably been with this person longer than she ever was with her parents or anybody else. Yes. That's her norm. And of course, it looks all fancy and wonderful on the outside, and everybody thinks she has the best relationship in the world, but they don't know what's going on. And then you get to a point where you feel really embarrassed and you think it's my fault. I was with this person. I'm not stupid. I was with this person. Like, why didn't I leave? Why didn't I do something about it?
So I think that it's important that we explain that what attracts a narcissist to you, you have to, in the beginning, you have to be a kind person. You have to be a person with a very high resiliency, meaning that you'll get over things. You'll be able to accept the bad treatments and just try to make the best of things. Mm-hmm. You're a person that is generally very empathetic. So you want to help other people. You don't like to see other people suffering. So you tend to give of yourself a lot and to be very present with the people. So those are all the things that a narcissist can pinpoint and say, oh, that she's great. That she's not going to abandon me the first sign of difficulty. She's going to stick with it. And I can always use this and that to bring her back. And it works like that. And often a narcissist, in their full power, they'll have control of the finances.
Mm-hmm.
So then that limits the partner from leaving because they have no money. They have no resort to get out, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes you have to cut your losses. And
Mm-hmm.
you, in my case, I took half the debt to get out. Not that the debt was mine, but I still took half the debt just because I needed out.
Right.
And they tend to put up a fight, and a really good fight. So you have to cut your losses, and you have to say, okay, so it feels like I'm starting from scratch, but you don't start from scratch. You're starting from having learned something, but the learning takes time. And so you need to be by yourself, and you need to start rebuilding yourself, which is the whole process of healing. Like you were just saying, you don't trust yourself. And I remember that feeling. There was a time
I didn't even realize that my session with you. I have trust issues with people. I had no idea I have trust issues till I had my set. And you didn't tell me that. I came in there after some self-reflection because I wanted to, I mean, I wasn't going to sit there and just ramble. Your time's valuable. So is mine. I wanted to make the most of the session. So I did some inner self-reflection. I did some meditation. I dug deep. If you really, people may think it sounds crazy. I had conversation with my guides and said, like, what I want to make the most of the session I'm having with you. Are there some suggestions? And going through things and feeling into it. I have trust issues. I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the healing process that I explained in the book, I figured that it would be, since I'm not necessarily accompanying the people who buy the book and they have to work on their own, I wanted to make sure that I would have a step-by-step kind of plan to rebuild themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to go from the first step, which is recognizing you need to leave. There's no fixing a narcissist. There's no you're gonna get it back what they owe you. You just gotta let all that go, right? You need to leave. You need to leave the relationship. Mm-hmm. Once you leave the relationship, the one thing that I tell people that if you want to work with me, what's really important is that you need to believe in a higher power. So this higher power.
Mention that even before you said that. Where did I go? Right, but go ahead. Sorry.
So you and the step 2 is if you don't have one, it's okay. If you had that experience with certain denomination, it's okay. So we take you through different belief system and what they teach, and allow you to determine what could that be for me. So for some people it will be God, but for some other people it'll be Gaia. For some people they'll call it the universe. Other people will say, well, it's my higher self, and it doesn't matter. Whatever name you want to give it. As long as you recognize that you're never alone, you're always supported by a greater loving energy that doesn't want you to suffer. Mm-mm. So for those of you who wonder, well, why did I get this relationship then if I'm not meant to suffer? It's not true that you're meant to suffer, but you're meant to learn to love yourself. Mm-hmm. You're meant to learn to set boundaries for yourself, and you're meant to learn to say no and learn to set limits and boundaries. And whole experience with a narcissist is to teach you so many lessons. The greater the trauma, the greater the lessons. And not just one lesson is attached to this entire process. But knowing that you are loved and that you're supported makes a big difference.
Sure does, yeah.
So we try to...
And that you're worthy. And that you're worthy. Because a lot of people going through this type of relationship or being around it their whole lives, it's not that you're running around saying, I'm worthless. It's just, I deserve it because I'm in this relationship. I made my bed. I got to lay in it. I got to do. And then you realize, no, you're worthy of better, right?
Absolutely. And it's part of the narcissist's plan to blame you for everything and make you question your own judgment. Mm-hmm. And also their techniques tend to isolate you from friends and families. And so when you leave, it's difficult. So it's not the easiest step. I think it's the hardest step of the whole the steps, because you're alone. And by then your self-esteem is low. You don't have any confidence. You may not even be financially able to support yourself. So you feel trapped in so many ways, mm-hmm. right? And some people say, well, I'll stay and I'll try to get my money out of it. Mm-hmm. It's just going to harm you. You might as well just leave now and cut mm-hmm. your losses, right? I had to go declare bankruptcy. I was done for when I left. But I've rebuilt my life after that, and without having someone who continuously puts me down and someone who tells me that no one's ever going to love me, no one's ever going to support me, and they're all I have. And I was like, okay, well, I'll make new friends. I'll figure it out. But for now, I just need to be alone with my kids and rebuild the basis of my life. Restructure my finances and have a safe place to stay. And so, yeah, it's a tough process, but that's once you're able to get past that, rather than trying to fill the void is within. So no amount of people are going to be able to fill the void inside of you. So we need to start filling our own void. We need to rebuild the pieces that were torn to pieces and patch things back together. So it's more like, the way I picture it is more like a Lego building, right? All the pieces are there, they're just screwed all apart. But it's possible to rebuild it and become a full-fledged, flourishing individual. So this relationship is not doomed you forever. However, sometime on your own is beneficial for you, because now they've taught you to doubt yourself, your thinking, your habits, your everything. So you need to get that back.
Can I mention something? Because I want to let people know, we hear you and we see you with your comments. And I want to give you all huge kudos for supporting one another in this conversation. I can see it. I think it's an important conversation, but I think it's important to hear, and I really appreciate your honesty and your candor as always, Sonya, because for you to share your journey, I think there's a lot of people that can hear and see and say, look what you're doing today. Like, you're miles away from what you're describing, what you were doing. But the thing is that you're here, you're happy with what you're doing, and it is possible to build a life outside of that. Because for a lot of people, that's the fearful part, right? The unknown or the finances or whatever it is. But there are places also to reach out for help. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to say those few things. Sorry.
Actually, I had someone recently. I seem to be a magnet, obviously. I think the universe sends you the people that you can help the most. So with this new book coming out, I've had an influx of people contacting me. And I find it very interesting, because I say, okay, well, you have no money, you can leave. You can go to an abuse shelter, and they will help you get set up, right? They'll either you can get some funding, some place to stay, and they're like, but I don't get beat up all the time. I'll take someone else's place who really needs it. The narcissistic victims don't see themselves as victims.
Nope.
So they
don't as abuse victims, no. No,
right. And they don't go to the resources in our communities that is available to them to help them get out. Right. And someone actually had the gall to say to me, well, it was easy for you. You had a good job. I said, it wasn't easy for me. I had to go bankrupt. So I said, the fact that I had a good job didn't even, help that much. Right. I had to start from scratch. From the very beginning, and rebuild myself back up. So it's not the easy part, but there are resources in many communities that are there to help you get back on your feet. And so you're never not abused enough to go there. If you're in the streets and you're alone and you need help, get the help you need. Don't there's nothing about being proud about it. You need help. Just go get the help you need. Don't stay stuck. Don't stay alone. So, the next step, when you're able to do that, then we spend time with ourselves, and we have to rebuild our confidence in ourselves. So we have to go through, I call it the inventory of, complete and fearless inventory of yourself. So who are you? What are your gifts? What are your abilities? What do you have? No one is absolutely a blank slate. So you will have interests, and maybe you haven't participated in those interests for a long time. So when when I ended up on my own, the kids went to their dad for a week, and I was alone for a week. I was like a zombie in the house. I had no idea what to do with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten how to take care of myself. I had forgotten my interest. I had forgotten what makes me happy, what makes me smile, and what I'm passionate about. I literally could not figure it out. I had to sit down and start thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Right? So the book is based obviously on my experience and all the people that I've helped in the last 25 years.
I gotta stop you there though, because I know what goes into your books from knowing you. I've known you for a couple of years now, at least, if not more. And you guys, the amount of research that Sonya does too. So I'm glad you're building off your own experience, because you're coming from an honest and true space. You've been there, you've gone through it. But I also know, and I have seen the stack of books, and this wasn't this book, it was another book. They were as tall as Sonya, if not taller. And she reads every one of them too. So she does a lot of research.
And you know, when I put the book together, it was I was okay, so how can I do this, and how did I do it? How can I help people, you know, not walk in a dark room trying to find a door handle, right? I'm trying to turn the light on so that you can find the door and find the exit. And there's a comment by Julie. She says, I had to find myself again after I got away from my ex. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying. Because they eat you alive. They take everything away from you. So you have to ask yourself. So I was like, okay, so before I enjoyed painting, let's try painting something. And then I realized, oh, what I really enjoy is being creative. So not just painting, but writing. The writing helped me a lot. I started sewing. I did embroidery. I did quilts. And it didn't matter if I was going to love it or not. The point was, I'm trying again to see, am I going to enjoy this? Am I having fun doing this? And if the answer is no, you didn't lose it. You gain the knowledge that this isn't for you. You don't enjoy that, right? So I usually tell people, and you need to get out. You need to start creating LinkedIn community. So try bowling, try
cooking classes. I suggest that lots to people, because, you know, unless you absolutely have no, and you're not going to know unless you try, but I've met so many adults that have said, if I had the time, you know, I'd love to take a class in this, but when there's people around, and I'm going to tell you, even from my own community, and I tell people, I'm not being a snob. I've lived in the city my whole life. Actually, all my friends were jealous when I got divorced. I swear to God, I've heard the story from many people before that I chose to get a divorce because I was not happy in the marriage. I'd gone through it for so many years, and they weren't happy either. I think it was a ridiculous thing, but you know what? That was their journey, their story I learned from. But my point is, I've built my whole community. My closest friends are online. You're one of my good friends. I mean, I've built you've got the whole world at your feet too. Because I've heard people say, oh, no, I'm shy. I can't get out. I can't. Well, start little, you know, check out some groups. There's a group for everything out there nowadays. Wouldn't you admit? When you think?
Yeah, exactly. So, and we also here, we're trying to create these groups to get people to meet with each other, right? So we have a meditation group, and now, you know, through the meditation group, we start getting regulars. And so we offer regulars outside activities. Like one weekend, we had an Avalon night, which these ladies all remembered a past life where they were in Avalon. And so we had an Avalon evening.
Oh, I love that.
It was a wild women's weekend. And the epitome of the evening on a Saturday night was we made a fire and everybody had to dance naked around it.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know if I'd go naked, but I might dance with you.
You know what? You don't dance like all night. We danced for about 15 minutes. And then everybody had a blanket and they sat by the fire. And I was asking the women, so how did that feel? And a lot of the women were saying, well, this is the first time I don't feel judged. It's the first time I'm comfortable in my skin. It's the first time that I realized that not one woman here looks the same and none of them match what's on the cover of a magazine, right? So they gain an appreciation of their body and stopping judging themselves. And so when we are able to find groups that we see that, you know, let's have this experience if you're interested, and the women join in, and so they start experiencing and they start growing, right?
I
It's
would
not
imagine you'd be pretty
what.
close after dancing naked around a fire for 15 minutes.
But
I
it
love
was such a cool experience though, because we had the moonlight, so it was really dark, but we had the moonlight, and I was like, okay, so just flow with the music and try to, you know, bring in the moonlight into your body and the heat of the fire. And it was a little awkward for like maybe the first minute, but they really got into it. And then
I
after
love it.
15 minutes, I'm like, okay, now we're done. We put the blankets back on, and they're like, now I would be able to go for a lot longer. But they pushed their boundaries, right? It's what you need to do. You need to, in whichever way, that it's going out bowling or going to create a movie night. We had a group in Montreal that played board games, right? So they tend to be more shy people, and they have difficulty interacting. But by playing board games, it allowed them to be in a social situation with a group, and you know, they focus on the game. But they
I
started.
will admit that being with a person next to you versus over a screen would be a preference always, because you're sharing energy. Not that you can't through a screen, but it's not quite the same experience. If I lived in the same province with you, close to you, I'd be coming a lot to your stuff. I know it would.
Well, we have the drummings now. We have so many things that we offer, and then of course we've got all our stuff all over the room, and people are like, "Oh, what's this for?" I said, "Well, that's to meditate with sound, to use your vocal cords to create the vibration to heal your body." And some of the women are like, "When are you going to do that?" I said, "Well, when there's 5 of you, then we'll select a date that works for all the 5 of you, and then we'll sit down and we'll do it." And so they're starting to ask, they're starting to be more outgoing and more, I might be interested in this. I'd like to try it. And that's all I'm saying in the book. I'm encouraging you to try things maybe that you've done before, and maybe that doesn't suit you. Like I used to go to the gym five days a week. I used to be a bodybuilder, and I had all the 6-pack and everything, and that's just not my thing anymore. I don't enjoy going to the gym and sweating and being just right. So I was like, okay, so I used to enjoy that, but I don't enjoy that anymore, and it's okay. So what else can I enjoy? So I prefer now, hiking. I prefer kayaking. I prefer being actually outside. I'm still moving, but there's a connection to nature that you don't get inside of a gym, right? And allows time for me to meditate when I'm near the water. It always helps me purge emotions and things. So I've never kayaked in my life, but I tried it. I rented one because you don't have to go all out and spend a ton of money. I just rented one for $20, and I realized I'm actually enjoying this. This would be an activity that I would like to do regularly. Now we live right beside the Red Deer River, and I just plug the kayak in there, and I just go for a few hours. And
you know what my son had me do? If anybody is a friend of mine on Facebook, my eldest son, he's discovered that we actually are Métis. So for people that don't understand, that would be a First Nations bloodline, I guess, and another nationality. And he started, I didn't even know, because he doesn't live with me anymore. And he's going to school, and he's working 80 hours a week. He works with Two-Spirit First Nations adolescents and First Nations women. And so he started painting. He never did that when he was growing up. Had no interest. He's painting, done a beautiful job, but he made me. Actually, I'm going to show you guys. I wore them on my birthday on Thursday. I'm going to do it. There's a reason why I brought this up though, because my youngest son, who has severe autism, decided his dad usually takes him swimming on Sundays, but his dad had a knee replacement. So he said, "Mom, for your birthday, why don't we go to the Marina water park?" And I couldn't understand why, because we got a splash pad behind our house. "No, Mom, because I never get out." And we went there, and we had so much fun. I just only wish, I said, we're going to do this again, because I got to see the beautiful Lake Superior, the sleeping giant that we're known for. The marina is beautiful. So my eldest son spent my birthday with me, took the day off, and he handmade me, these beautiful.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
I know. If you make stuff by hand, you get it. I got to go backwards. I was so touched. I told him I'm going to treasure them forever. So I got to spend my birthday with both my boys separately, and have a beautiful time. But I have to tell you, would I have gone to the splash park by myself? Probably not. But you know what? That was so much fun. I said, next time we go, I said, we're getting a waterproof bag. I'll stick the keys, my watch, and my phone in there, and we're running through everything because he was soaking wet. I got in the pool, but I didn't get wet. But getting outside is my whole point. Getting into water, getting into nature, right? How healing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful way if you have children, right? My son and I, we have our way that I know what calms him down. It's you put him in the kitchen, right? He'll cook. Yep. And but I have to drag him outside. So I'm the one who has to drag him out and say, well, let's go do this. Let's go do that. So we got into different activities together so that we can connect on a level that, it's not just what I like and not just what he likes, right? We try new things together. So he actually took me to Six Flags.
I'm going to shout you out. I'm going to do this, you guys. Do you know what Sonya did? I could not believe this. This was so cool. So Thursday night, I was live, and I said my phone was ringing. So what did Sonya do? She had a whole group of, I don't know if you had your ladies or what. They all sang me happy birthday. That made my night. Thank you. So support of other people around you. You know what they think of you, support you, send you love. I loved it. So thank you. I want to thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we had about 10 people here. So,
did you?
And I'm like, okay, so everybody, we're going to sing. And then
I went to so proud. I had to message you. I'm live.
Everybody's going to bump down. It's no, it's going to be, we're still going to sing.
No, but that's beautiful what we're talking about, this getting around other people. Like, we have to be careful saying the last 4+ years. So we can't say the word on YouTube. But the thing is, right, we really were really isolated. People realized, I think, what it was like to have a lot of free time on their hands, maybe rediscovered some things they didn't know. But I think we've almost forgotten how important it is to be around other people.
Yes. Yeah. And so this is all, this step is all about that. So finding out what makes you laugh, what makes you happy. Like when we went to Six Flags, and I was looking at the rides, and he's like, what? I said, well, I know I love this, but I haven't been on a ride for like 10 years. Yep. And this is how insidious it is, right? I'm not sure I'm going to like this anymore. He says, well, best way to find out, Mom. Let's get on it. Right?
I love it.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And we spend the day doing all the crazy ride. His poor girlfriend puked. And I was like, I'm so sorry. and I'm just having the time of my life, right? Yeah. So, and I think that's what's important, rediscovering the child inside of you, right? Letting your child out and having fun. And it's innocent fun, right? So when you're able to see what you like, what you enjoy, what makes you happy, the next step is self-care, self-love. So it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but personally, I go for a massage every month. It's my time. So, and it's funny because once in a while I forget to turn the phone off, and she'll say, do you need to get that? I say, absolutely not. Just keep rubbing. Yep. This is my time, right? So it could be getting your hair done. It could be we were in New York, and my friend doesn't wear makeup. So I took her to one of the Saks Fifth Avenue kind of thing. And I sat her in the chair, and I said, can you do her up? And she's like, oh, do you got an important evening? And I said, absolutely. And she's looking at me. She can lie. And I just tell her when something like that happens, just smile, right? So they do her up, and then we went up a building somewhere anyway, and I took a bunch of pictures of her. And she looked so radiant and so gorgeous, but it's not something she'll do for herself, right? So it's little. It doesn't have to be always big things, but could be taking a bath once a week with a book where, the dogs and the kids aren't allowed in. And it's just that time for you. So
I get a subscription from, where's it come from? Is it Thailand? No, Singapore. Because I love resin. I was doing sculpting today after color. I color my own hair because it cost me a fortune to get it done. People don't realize how long it is. It's almost down to my butt. It's so long in the back. So I colored it, but I love to sculpt, and I love to get molds and resin. But the thing is, right, I don't want what everybody else has. So these are special little things. It doesn't cost a fortune. I have something to look forward to at the beginning of the month, every month. And it comes and it just feels so good. I don't feel guilty about it at all. At all.
There you go, right? Or it could be something very simple. It could be carvings, it could be writing. It doesn't, people nowadays, we're so oriented through consumerism.
Yes.
Buy, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to rediscover
No.
yourself, right?
There's
So
lots of free things out there. Like even in my groups, like I've had people, and they've been so sweet, and I am working on a course since I talked to you. I've got my outline. I'm looking into where I'm going to host. I might have to talk to you another time about this. Maybe you've got some suggestions where I can host it. It's going to be online. My son, I showed it to him, my eldest. He gave me, because he's doing program development, some different ideas, maybe the way to structure it, whatever, right? So working with other people. But the thing is, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, like you said. It doesn't. But my point is, once I think you start to realize, because it's almost like you forget what it feels like
yes,
to laugh and have fun. The other thing I wanted to ask you, though, is do you find that when you're in a narcissistic relationship, or even when you get out of it, like I've met so many people that I work with at healing work, for example, and before I go there, what I was starting to say, my mind's going a mile a minute, is there's so many free resources out there. I share them on Facebook, on you, both my groups, because I've had people ask me to mentor them. That's where I was going with that whole comment. And I've sent them tons of free stuff. There is lots of free stuff. You could literally Google free whatever. You don't always have to pay for stuff. But do you find people that say when we get out, like especially if you're isolated from friends and family, we get out of the relationship, we're working through the steps, but people tend to hang on to friendships. Like I find if you're the type that has had a lot of narcissistic relationships, which we reviewed earlier, what you are when you're kind of a target, do you find the friendships too? Like, do you go through that in your book about taking a look at some of the people around you? Because I work with a lot of people, clients, that they've hung on to friendships, and I say you should feel good when you leave your friend. Your side should hurt from laughing so badly. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not 100% of the time, but you should be around people that make you feel good. Do you find
yes.
that too?
Well, I've personally, I don't know. I had a rude awakening after my divorce because I realized that it became clear that my mother was exactly like him. So I was just continuing what I was stuck in, right? And that made me sit back and say, okay, hang on a minute. Who is asking what from me, and who can I ask in return? That was my first thing, right? And I realized that a lot of the relationship I was in were take.
Yes.
But when I wanted something and there was no availability, and it wasn't about money, it was about time, right? It was about being
And
able to
you
talk about me.
rarely asked, right, for help. Rarely, if ever, asked for help. So if you did, you really needed help.
Yes, yeah. And so I decided to do a cleaning, but I also did a healing for myself on I am worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
I love myself and I accept the love from others, right? So when I transformed that belief, a lot of people just simply disappeared because I no longer have that feeling that I'm not worthy, so that's the best I'm going to get. That's all I'm going to get. And I got to meet some amazing people. So now the people that I meet are generous, kind, loving, and they're great listeners. My roommate is a fantastic individual. We met, and I was very cautious because it was a new friendship, because I basically thrown everybody out the door. And then we started realizing we had things in common, so we started going to fairs together, we started going to movies together, and I had so many points on my card that we went for the movies for like a year for free. And then I proposed. I had to go work in Hawaii, and I said, "Would you like to come?" I said, "It's only 4 days," but I said, it's 4 days in Hawaii, and it must have been a long weekend or something. She's like, why not? And for her too, it was a whole new thing to start being adventurous and trying new things, and so we went to Hawaii. We got along great, and then I'm the adventurous one. So I said, oh, let's go ziplining. She's like, I never did that. I said, well,
that'd be so much fun.
Let's do it. If you don't like it, we won't do it anymore. But let's try.
Excuse me.
And so we went ziplining. We went to watch a sunrise at the volcano.
Oh,
so like I say, it doesn't always have to be super expensive. But if you have a really beautiful place near you that you can watch a sunrise from, it can be very magical to purposely be there for that, right? And just be in the moment of this light coming out of the darkness. It's very cathartic, right? So the people that I meet now, I don't want to approach everybody that I meet, not trusting, but I find that I'll give you this much and then we'll see. Right. So I don't open the doors wide open. I open them a crack to let you in, to get to know you. And then I'll see. And I'll see you in different.
So what would you look for somebody like that? Because I think this is helpful for people to hear, because I told you when I've had you, well, I'm always honest on my show. I've got nothing to hide. But the thing is, right, I almost feel like you don't want to trust yourself. I make friends with people. I have lots of friends, as I'm sure you do, but my inner circle is very tiny for a reason. I always say the people I have around me, like I could probably in all my almost 60 years maybe I could count on 3 fingers maybe fights I've had with friends. I don't fight with people, right? I don't like that. So, and I've learned with my inner circle, the people I have around me, I know that they would do anything for me as I would for them, but we don't take advantage. And I also know that if they needed to tell me something, they don't, but if they, over the years, I've been this way too with close friends. So if they told me, I might take a little time to think about it, wouldn't get angry. And I realized it's coming from a place of honesty, truth, and love. And I needed to hear it. So
yes. Well, if you're friends with me, you'll definitely get that. I won't cuddle. I'm not your mom.
You're hilarious.
However, I think that the people around me appreciate my honesty and my, I said, you need to hear this. Mm-hmm. I could cuddle you and you'll just stay in your pity party. And I said, or you need to hear this. You need to be shaken in your foundation to have a reaction.
You're coming from a place of love. You're not coming from a place of hostility or anger or meanness or anything else. You're a mover and a shaker. I'm sorry, but you are. You are. Like, you're adventurous, and it's like you're going to tell someone that you care about. If they can't see it, I'm telling you this because I care. You need to hear this, right?
Exactly. And I think that we need to dispel the fact that you need hundreds of friends.
No, you don't.
Right? So I personally don't have time for that many friends anyway. because friendships need to be nurtured. Mm-hmm. Right. So some people are like, well, am I your friend? I was like, how often have you called me to ask me how I'm doing? How often do you take the time to come and visit me and come for tea? Well, they're like, well, never. I said, therefore, you're a client. You're not a friend. Mm-hmm. Right. I got to know you on a personal basis. Yes. But you only come here to get healing sessions. That's not what a friend is. So I sometimes, and I guess for some people that's a very brutal awakening, right? And
but that's a boundary for you.
Pardon me?
That's a boundary for you.
It right? is. Because the people I consider my friends are the people who out of the blue will call, and they don't have to call me every day or every week, but we'll be in regular contact, and I'll be able to say, this is my new project, this is where I'm going, this is what we're doing. Right, we'll visit each other outside of just activities, right? So, and I honestly don't have time to have more than the friends that I have.
That's how I am. Like one of my closest friends lives in Atlanta, and I adore the ground she walks on. The minute we met, and those are a few of my friends. The minute I met, I knew they were going to be good friends, and she understands I'm super busy, and she's got a lot more free time on her hands. So she'll leave me. She knows I'm getting back to her whenever I get a chance. I'll get back to you. I get back, but I tell people, if you're in my friend's circle and I want to be able to spend time with you, please don't think I'm ignoring you. It's a crazy busy life. The minute I get your message, I'm going to message you back. And she knows that. And it works beautifully. The only thing is, though, when we do connect, like 5 hours passes like 30 seconds.
But Well, and there's many ways you can communicate, right? So a lot of the people are afraid to bother me, right? So I tell them, well, leave me a message on Messenger. If I'm free, I'll call you.
I don't like to bug people though, so I don't message a lot of people, right? I message them usually if I got to talk to you about something or whatever, but I try not to bug people. But then again, I'd love to hear your opinion. One of my boundaries has become, don't get me wrong, I love to help. I think that's why we're in the job that we're in and why we're in talking about this type of thing, right? We talked about some of the people that can be targets for narcissists. But it's gotten to the point now, and I know exactly what you're saying sometimes, and with no judgment, people will message me out of the blue that I haven't heard from in years. And I had one person leave me a message that said, yeah, I was in a really bad mood today. And I was thinking, who could I call? Who could I call? And I thought, you're always positive. You're always happy. You're always, and I didn't take that as a compliment because I thought, this was a couple of years back, and I went, wow. And then I started asking myself, I ran through this with spirit. Would I call this person if I was having that kind of day? Is there give and take? Is there whatever? And my thing is no. And I'm not being a friend with somebody because I'm expecting something out of them. That's not what it is. And I know you get that, but for people listening, but you know that if you ever needed them, a friend, because I've really been going through this with a lot of my clients about what a good friend is. And a friend doesn't take and make you feel crappy by the end of it or gaslight you, which I think we could go over because I've heard that word misused so many times. Misused. They have no idea what it means. And you do the same for them. So
yeah. Can you highlight Mish's comment?
Right there, Mish. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Mish says, I don't like to bother people. If I don't reach out, they can't say no. That's true.
Oh,
however, I've told some people, which is interesting, it's my brother and my aunt, and I call them all the time. And they're like, well, we don't call you. And I said, you can call me, it's okay. It goes both ways. They're like, yeah, but you're busy. We're afraid to disturb you. So I'm explaining to my soon to be 100-year-old aunt. I said, Auntie, if I'm busy, I don't have my phone with me. So you just leave a message and say, it's Auntie. And when I'm done, I'll call you back. And, sometimes it's Auntie, she's 100. So I usually call her back right away. But, sometimes it'll be the next day because I can be busy late in the evening, right? But
plus, you want to have the time to be able to have a proper conversation with her, right?
Yeah, exactly. And besides, that's the next step in the book, right? It's setting boundaries. And if they say no, it's okay. They are allowed to say no. You know what I mean? But
and so are you. Meaning the person reading, right?
So I mean, it's just as important that we learn to say no and accept that when people say, I don't have time right now. Well, that's fine. And I have a particular friend who's babysitting her grandchild, and she's very busy. So I usually will text. So when do you have time to talk? And we'll literally make an appointment. Okay, well, Saturday at 7:00. Okay, so we'll call each other Saturday at 7. So I know that she will have her attention.
Yes.
And she can talk to me, and I'm not disturbing her, and she's not feeling pressured, and not half listening, right? So you should know your people eventually, and you realize they're not ignoring you. They just also have a full plate. So by respecting them and respecting yourself, you find the time that works for the both of you.
I hear you. Now, I want to say hi to Miss. She says, too cold here to be outside. We had thunderstorms as well last night. That's because Michelle lives in the future. She lives over in Australia. Miss?
Well, I mean, I go hiking and snowshoeing and skiing. So we just dress for the weather.
And, well, Canadians, we got a ton of, not that it's not Canada night tonight, folks, but we got a lot of Canadians here. We can tell you. And right now, you got hot weather. And then I'm telling you, I think, and I'm not trying to say we're the best or anything. What I'm saying is we're pretty hardy people when it comes to temperature. Super hot in the summer and humid, and sometimes super cold in the winter.
But that was a date that I had with my brother. Every Sunday at 8 a.m, we would meet in different location and go snowshoeing for an hour or two.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and we talk about paranormal stuff, and then we talk about energy stuff, and then and then maybe you'll slip in what happened this week, and but it was very chill. It wasn't. We're not trying to. I don't want people to think I'm an athlete or anything, but it's chill. It's snowshoeing, and you're walking, you're talking, and sometimes we stop and we admire birds or look at animal tracks. But it's time. And for me, time is valuable. So someone who takes 2 hours every week to be with me, I value that. I find that to be a precious gift, because that's not something anybody can buy.
That's
right?
what yesterday was with me, with my son. And there's a lot of people out there that have, children under the spectrum or whatever. He's 26 and a half. I've mentioned him many times with severe autism. He doesn't like to go out. So the fact, and I had forgotten because he talked to me about it about a week ago to go. I said, if the weather's nice, we will definitely go. And he reminded me. So the fact he wanted to go outside, we went to the toy department at Walmart, and he wanted to, he didn't ask me for anything, but I said, would you like to pick something out? He did. Mom got her toys. There's these balls that they're selling, marketing to children, called mini verses, and you make little miniature whatever. Right now there's Lord of the Rings and there's Harry Potter. Okay. There's even a bar thing. I don't know how they're selling that, making little pretend mixed drinks with resin and stuff. It comes with all the mini stuff. So I got to look at my stuff in the same department as him. I let him pick something out. And then I got a McDonald's for a treat. Now, again, do we do that all the time? No, but that's a treasured memory.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to get on to the next step?
I think that's one of the very important things, so you don't slip into old habits and start to learn to trust yourself.
Yeah. And setting boundaries. Because in the book I tell you one of the fundamental freedoms that are universal to the planet, and I explained that to being raised and being nurtured and being loved and being listened to, those are rights that we should have. And it gives you a bit of an idea of, oh, I have that right. That's a legal right. And I did, because I'm Canadian, I put some of the rights of Canada, the basic rights that are in the charter. And just to people understand, you have a right to live without violence. You have a right to say no to sexual conducts. You have rights. And we've forgotten maybe that we have these rights, or we've never been given a choice. And to learn, I think it was important for people to learn you have these rights. So it's important that you acknowledge those. And then that helps you set your boundaries. But once you've set your boundaries, the next step is to be responsible for yourself.
Before we move on to that, because I know this is a real issue for a lot of people with boundaries. And I know we're going to go through all the points. I'm not going to hold you there, but the only thing is, and they can buy your book, because I'm sure there's a lot of information how to do that. Could you quickly give people an idea what a boundary is without feeling guilty? Because there's a lot of guilt with people, setting boundaries. Especially.
Okay. So when you're setting a boundary, you should ask yourself, does it make me happy? Mm-hmm. If it's not making you happy, then the answer should be no. Yeah. Is it harming me? Is it taking a, is it like, let's say finances. Someone wants you to pay for dinner, right? And then you have to say, did I invite these people? There's an etiquette, right? If I invite someone to come to dinner with me, I'm expecting to pay for them because I'm inviting them with me. However, if we decide to go together, and I should be paying for my meal, and the other people should pay for their meal.
Yes.
And it's okay to say, I was not under the understanding that I had to pay for you, right? Or, you ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. You can't do that, right? So, and this is things that normally people get taught. Like, I have to tell my son, you're not paying. He's like, no. So I said, don't pick the most expensive thing on the menu. And he's like, what?
You taught to your children. Yes, exactly. I agree.
Right? I said, because I people don't mind treating you, but it doesn't mean that they want to buy you the lobster and crab plate, right? So when someone else is paying, try to be more reasonable. Maybe buy the shrimp lasagna plate, kind of thing. That's something that's a little cheaper. And if you insist on having the crab and lobster, well, you say, I'll pay for it, because you don't want to put that burden on another person. But those are the things that we should have been taught. But if you weren't taught these things, or if you've been taken advantage of for several years, these are the things that you need to relearn for yourself. So setting boundaries should be, I'm happy to do this. It comes from the heart. I don't mind. It's my pleasure. Then it's okay.
And it's not going to take from you in the way of time, energy, or anything. Because I've seen people, I'm one of them, I've done it. I'll say yes instead of no. And then because you're going to feel bad about it or whatever it might be, right? And then your plate's overloaded. You got your juggling all these balls in the air, and you're stressed, you're tired, or maybe you just really don't want to do it, but you do it because you don't want to hear the nagging, you don't want to hear the complaining, you don't. So
and then that's when you have to question that relationship.
Absolutely.
Right. So like I remember someone asked me to help them cut their edge. And it was like a 7-foot hedge. It's going to be like an entire weekend of cutting. And I'm divorced by that point. And I said, well, I can't help you this weekend because I have my kids. So my kids are my priority, right? That's my boundary. That's a boundary. I only see my kids 50% of the time.
Yeah.
During that time, I will be with my kids. But next weekend, I won't have the kids and I'm free and I'll come and help you. No, it has to be this weekend. Well, I said, then find someone else. And the person was quite upset with me telling them to find someone else. And I said, and it's okay for them to be upset. And this is what we need to understand, right? You're upset, but I have no responsibility for your hedge to get this bad. This is not my backyard. It's not, I got no responsibility in regards to this. And this is where the next step is take responsibility for your own thoughts, your own words, and your own action. What am I responsible for? Well, I'm responsible for paying my mortgage, my car, that putting food on the table. I'm responsible because I have appointments. I have to prepare for these appointments or these podcasts, right? And then I have to allow myself the time to be ready for these appointments or these engagements that I have. And then if outside of all that, I still have time and you need it when I have time, then the answer is I'm going to be happy to help you. But if I can't, I can't, period. Because I have to take care of my own personal responsibilities. Now that the fact that you let your edge outgrow and you didn't look after it is not my problem.
Well, or your emergency is not my emergency right now. You could pay somebody to come and help you. And as I get, I was saying this last week, and I said, maybe I'm starting to turn into a crotchety old woman. I don't know. But I said, I'm almost 60 years old and I'm not taking any more crap. I was saying this to a friend of mine and she was laughing and she's going, me neither. And it's not like you're out to get anybody. It's like, no means no. End of story. No guilt trip, no nothing, no. And these are people, like I said, I went back to the question and it came from spirit about, would I rely on these people every time I have a problem? Would I call them? Would I, and I'm not saying, like, there's a difference between a client, like you said, and a friend. And the same thing, if you're looking at friends that the only time they call you and this is for our people listening, call you that they need something or that's
the only time they call. You got to ask yourself what kind of relationship is this? Right. And so again, it goes with the boundaries and getting to know yourself. And that's why I said it in that order. If you get to know yourself, you'll, whenever I'm with this person, my son said this, he says, whenever I'm with this person who's a narcissist, I come back, I'm stressed. I'm angry.
You don't feel good. Just drained.
and it's like, why? Why am I feeling this every single time? I said, well, I need to ask yourself, why are you even going back?
Yes.
And and sometimes people tell me, well, we've been friends for 15 years. So I'm like, okay. But if you meet that person today, would you be friends with that person? And a lot of the times people answer, no. They're not the same. I've changed. They've changed. We want different things. We want, we don't have the same interests. I said, okay, well, then it's okay to not be so close to them and let it go, right?
Same
So
thing with family, because we see this with families a lot too in our work. I know we both do. Like you'll hear people say, like maybe it's a boss or maybe it's family, right? So boss.
I had an experience with a bishop, a preacher in the church,
Mhm.
who wanted me to organize a Christmas party, and I'm going through huge turmoil with the kids. That was like 15 years ago. And
Mhm.
I spent a half an hour explaining to him everything that's going wrong and that I need assistance and I don't have time to plan a party. He says, so when are you going to plan the party? And I'm like, are you not hearing me? I spent a half an hour explaining to you all the reasons why I need to be with my family right now. I need to spend time with my kids. I need to sort things out. I don't have time to plan a party. But some people are completely oblivious to your needs or what you're saying. And that's when you have to say, well, fine then, and just close the door and say, I'm not going there anymore.
I wanted to highlight this. So Ken said, I see friends and family, or they only call when they need something. So, and Michelle said, and Mish, you're right. You said you can remove your family. I have, and I don't tell people to do this, but I do share my experience. And it's something that I worked out years ago with Spirit when I just finally, I had nothing left to give, nothing more to give. And I literally heard my guide say, just think about how would you feel, God forbid, they got walked off the street corner and got hit by a bus. And I said, I would be good with that. I would be okay with that. I'm done. We'd probably have more productive, better conversations with them on the other side anyways. And I'm serious. And I walked away. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel bad. And these are parents. And I don't hate them. I don't wish
Whoa.
anything
No,
evil for them.
wait, but
I just can't. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today had I not walked away. And you know what? I don't have regret. I wish them well. I send them love. I send them healing.
exactly. And I'm not saying you have to do it in the mean way, right?
Yeah.
You just have to say, I'm not available for this right now. Start saying no. And the minute you start saying no, they'll turn to someone else. And if they actually care about you, they'll stay in touch. So I before I moved, 6 months before I moved from Quebec to Alberta, I didn't give anybody my new address or phone number unless they called me first.
I haven't either.
And then someone eventually got a hold of me and they're like, you moved. I'm like, yes, I did. Well, you didn't tell me. I said, why would I? You have not contacted me in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
For 6 months, you didn't call, you didn't inquire, you didn't care. So I think that means that I'm not important enough if after 6 months you haven't contacted me. So I'm feathering everybody out. It's
I'm good.
not important.
So that's knowing yourself then, like you said too, right? Like getting to know yourself after the boundaries, and taking responsibility. That sometimes that's a hard one, but taking responsibility.
Well, especially after being blamed in a narcissistic relationship for everything, you are able to now say, I'm responsible for this. I'll take responsibility for that because I made that choice. I decided this. So whatever decisions I make, I'm responsible for. But like me, when I got divorced, I took on $40,000 of debt that I had no say in, and I didn't spend. So I took the responsibility because I wanted out. But after that, I managed my own budget. I live within my means. I never had to go bankrupt again. I actually rebuild, and I'm fine. Yeah. Right. So I'm able to say before I engage into something, if someone asks you to do something and you said yes, well, that's on you. That's not on them. Right? So if you have to learn to say no, you have to learn to be able to set those boundaries and then takes responsibility for them.
And you give people exercises with each one of these steps and stuff too, right?
Absolutely. Tons of them. Yeah.
I want people to know that. So we're just doing an overview, you guys. And then, so that's, you got to buy the book. It'll really help you with all the steps in there is where I want to go.
The book has like 175 pages. And I do write in there, and I say, if you need more space, keep writing in your journal, because otherwise it's a bunch of empty space in the book, and I don't want to, waste paper for nothing. So there's lots of different steps in question and introspections that guides you through the transformation process, because that's what it is. You're transforming, right? You're going from being hurt to being healed.
Mm-hmm.
So the next step is to learn to forgive yourself.
That's a big one. That's
a huge one, but an important step. It's important to allow yourself to, because in hindsight, well, I shouldn't have done this. I should have left sooner. I should, right? But back then, did you know that information? Were you as strong as you are now, right? So you can't look at your experience in judgment. Yeah, you can't judge yourself. You need to be kind to your past self. You need to forgive yourself and the fact that you were hurt, the fact that you were alone, the fact that you had no support, the fact that you didn't know any better. At the time, you did the best that you could. Mm-hmm. Nobody willingly, wholeheartedly gets himself in trouble or stays in a bad relationship. There's a lot of different factors that make you stay longer or, prevent you from leaving. The first time I wanted to leave, I made my decision. It was early January. And a week later, I found out my son was autistic and I was pregnant with my third child. I stayed because I got terrified. I was like, how am I going to handle 3 kids, a brand new baby, and an autistic child? And I felt completely lost. And I was isolated and alone. So I had no resources. I didn't know where to go. And by then, my self-esteem and my confidence was pretty beat up. So I didn't know that I had it in me to be able to step up to the plate. Mm-hmm. So it took me another year and a half. And then after a year and a half, I was like, okay, enough of this. This is never going to get better. If I need things to change, I need to leave. That's the first thing I need to do. Right? Mm-hmm. So forgiving yourself for either staying too long or not having the courage to leave or putting up with the abuse or whatever it is that you're beating yourself up about. Mm-hmm. It's that step is about forgiving yourself and loving yourself. Right? We go back to you have to take care of you. You have to love yourself. Mm-hmm. And the way to love yourself is to forgive and is to let go.
Yes, what I've been telling myself about many things in life, even when it comes down to running late, and I get a hard time about it because I'm usually about 5 minutes late. I don't do it on purpose, but it never fails. Something happens with my son. I've got a dog. I've got a bunch of other stuff, and I plan for it. I've actually even shifted appointments a little bit now. So I know that lunchtime will be out of the way. For example, this will be out of the way and I can be on time. It's not that I want to, right? But where I'm going with this is forgive yourself, because also everything happens when it's meant to happen is what I've been telling myself too. Now that can be a cop-out. Don't get me wrong, for somebody hearing that and saying when it's meant, we have to be proactive. Mm-hmm.
Actually, trying to achieve so much in so little time is one of the after effect of being in a narcissistic relationship. Mm-hmm. Because you tend to have to do everything on their time. Yep. Everything has to be done right away. Yep. Everything has to be done a certain way. And if you don't do their things, then you're going to end up paying for it. So it's about what I suggest to people in the book is start timing yourself. How long does it take to do laundry? It takes longer because some people sort their laundry and then you got to be present to switch it, but then you have to fold it and you have to put it away. It takes a lot longer than people realize, right? Mm-hmm. How long does it take to get grocery? I used to say it takes a half an hour to do groceries. Well, it doesn't. It takes me more than a half an hour to drive to the store and back. So I need to allow myself time to go there, to do the shopping, to go through the till, to come back and to put it away. Right. Mm-hmm. So then you start realizing, okay, and do I have, and because you think it's only going to be a half an hour, you keep rushing. Right. So it's always a stress and anxiety in everything you're trying to do. So you have to be able
That's probably why I love creative stuff, because there is no rush. There is no stress. You just sit and relax. And that's what I do is at nighttime, actually, when it's quiet and
But nothing needs to be stressful, which is the point I'm trying to make. If you allow yourself enough time to be able to process the laundry, to process the food, to process, then you start realizing there's not enough time today for me to accomplish all this. And you
That's a
start.
really good suggestion, because Julie also added, and I want to, Ellie Wynn said, thank you. I'm listening to what we're talking about. So thank you everybody for being here. We see your comments if you're just joining us. Oh, good. I thought it said 54, 754. Oh, crap. I will tell you, I'm supposed to do a station identification. I always have such great conversations I forget at the top of the hour. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. This is the Angel Rock, and we have a fan favorite back on for part 2, talking about her book about narcissism and healing and thriving and moving on past severe narcissistic relationship with abuse in it. And there is abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, we could go on and on. Abuse is abuse. So I wanted to add this because this is something that I noticed recently that I've been seeing. Julie Jean Bassett said clutter is also a trauma response from dealing with a narcissist. And I've been seeing more and more about that. Have you seen that in any of your research that you did? Or does it get back to sort of like timing yourself and taking a look at things? Because, yeah, sometimes there is clutter.
It's excess response. So either it'll be clutter or it'll be excessive compulsiveness of cleaning.
You asked me that, remember, when we had our session, because Sheldon said she wanted to clean. I don't have OCD, but you were picking it up. Sonya is so intuitive. As she was picking up, I go, no, I don't have, and I don't have OCD. But there are days, maybe it's like, I just feel, I don't know, maybe it's a stress response too, right? I'll feel like I got to clean. I'm not obsessive about it, but that day I did. I was stressed because I didn't know what we were going to do in our appointment.
and that's bringing order to chaos is one of the way to control your space. So either you live in utter clutter and it's pure chaos, and or you bring order to the chaos because that relieves your anxiety from being with a narcissist. If everything is perfect and everything is in the right place and everything is put away, there's nothing to pick at, nothing to, so it depends what kind of narcissist you were with. But for the most part, your reaction is based on how you were being abused in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember I had a colicky baby. I'm trying to make dinner. There's a bunch of toys in the living room. Yeah. And
I'm not laughing at the colicky baby. My first one was like that for the first 2 years.
and there comes my ex-husband, who comes in the kitchen. He says, "Why is my dinner not ready?" And I'm like, I'm looking at the stove. I'm like, dude, it'll be a minute, right? It'll be there soon. And then he turns around and looks at the living room, and he's like, "Well, it's a mess here." And that's when I was starting to blow my engines, right? So I opened the cupboard door. I said, "There's a mop, there's a pail, there's the soap, there's rags. Exactly. Have at her. Don't I look busy enough to you?" Instead of having, an understanding where a friend or a loving person would come in and say, "Oh my gosh, you must be completely overwhelmed. Can I do something
for you? Yeah.
Why don't I take the baby from you since you're at the stove, and I'll take care of the baby while you finish that. And after dinner, I'll help you clean the living room." Mm-hmm. Right? That's a loving relationship. That's a relationship where people can identify you're completely overwhelmed, and a narcissist just keeps adding to your list and keeping the pressure, right? Where a loving and a kind person, and it doesn't have to be a partner, it could just be a friend. A friend walks in on you and they'll look at the state of your house going, "Oh my gosh, do you need a hand?" I didn't come to see the mess in your house, but sometimes, can I help you with anything?
Yeah, how can I help?
Let's get some stuff out of the way. Like, you have a pile of dishes. Get what you're doing done. I'll do your dishes while you do that. And then, the friend said, "Well, it's going to go in the dishwasher." I said, "Okay, well, I'll do that for you. I'll put it in the dishwasher so we can sit down." Because how can you chill and relax when you have all these things and it's right? So then the book goes into, because that's a very physical aspect so far, right? Taking care of you, you're meeting your needs, rebuilding your finances. We cover all these things, right? So we cover the physical aspect, but then we go into the emotional healing, the mental healing, and the spiritual healing.
I'm so glad. I knew you would have, but I'm glad we're going through all this tonight so people can hear this book. If you've been around a narcissist, you guys, you need to buy it. Absolutely. Go ahead, Sonya. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's, and for each step, I have either I crafted a prayer or I use the prayer that I know that I really like or enjoy. So while you're going through the exercise, taking the time to recenter yourself before just answering from a guarded perspective, I ask people to go into prayer and to connect with their higher power, to be able to not be afraid to uncover the truth. Because the more you uncover, the more you realize that you're actually a very good person.
Hmm.
Right.
And when you've been in these relationships your whole life, you don't hear it. You don't. So when somebody says it, it feels like a wool sweater. It kind of does. Like it's really uncomfortable and prickly and
it's interesting because if you're raised by a narcissist or you were a narcissist, you're not accepting compliments very well.
Not
because if you take a compliment, you're somehow taking something away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they get upset that you got a compliment and they didn't. So to rebuild that accepting a compliment, even that is hard, because you're like, are you joking? No, I'm serious. Oh, okay. So
you know how I got better with this, and I don't know if it'll help people, but how I got better with compliments was I was looking into the law of attraction, and I was very good at the one part, at showing the universe I was, I could give and give, but I wasn't open to showing the universe I was open to receive, and realizing that that's a reciprocal. It's a reciprocal energy, if you will. So I was good at the first part, but not the second part. So for me, but the main thing is yeah, you are worthy of it. And most people don't give compliments if they don't mean it. There are people that do, but they're, somebody, and you can usually feel if it's genuine or not. All you have, instead of arguing about it or anything, or saying, no, I'm not, or well, no, or are you joking? Just say thank you and a smile. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Once I realized that people are really fast to complain, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they have no problem complaining. But when it's time to issue a compliment, I wasn't raised in an environment where I got a whole lot of them. So when I realized that, I'm like, well, maybe I'm also guilty because, maybe I should start, complimenting. And like you're saying, it has to be genuine. So I was following this driver. And remember, I used to be an RCMP for my entire career. So I know when a good driver is a good driver. And I called and I saw, I'm going through the whole thing, the truck number. He said, okay, so what is he doing wrong? I said, actually, absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm an RCMP officer and I've been following this guy for a while. He's actually amazing at driving very safely. And I thought you should know that at least one guy in your fleet is actually very decent and a very good driver. And there's a blank on the other end.
I do that at stores because if somebody's been nasty, I live in a small enough city that I know I'm probably going to run into that clerk again. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt before I say something. But the biggest thing is if I have the time and I've had somebody who's been really kind and gone over and above, and you get lots of people, right? I think it's like attracts like energy, like I've mentioned many times on both my shows I do. And I'll ask to see the manager, and the manager comes over and they're all,
yeah. They're expecting to fight or something, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you tell them and they stop, get this blank stare, then they break into a smile. Oh my gosh, I thought you were coming to complain. And right, that's a beautiful thing. That was awesome that you did that. I think that was so awesome that you said
that. When someone actually does well, right, you can tell, right, that this is a little above what normally you would get, or they go out of your way. Like I don't know, that I was doing a fence, and I went to Home Depot, and this guy was like 150% above and beyond, right? So I actually wrote a letter to the manager. And then I said, this was amazing, because I'm a girl. Normally I go to these Renault stores and they ignore me. They don't give me a second look because they think I won't understand, or I don't know what they'll talk about. Or sell
you stuff you don't need. They try and do that too.
But this guy showed respect. And then, I said, well, I was thinking of doing this. And he's like, well, you'll need, this tool. I said, I have that. He says, do you have this type of saw? So as we talked, he really helped me make sure my project would get off the ground and be successful. So I think it's important that we stop living in the negative and we start looking forward to those people who are special and who are kind and taking notes of it.
And there's lots
Right?
of them. There's lots of
They
them.
are.
And these will have you believe the whole world is evil, nasty, negative, awful. But I'm telling you, and I have said this for years, but it doesn't sell. If you're looking to make money, I would love to see more and more publications and programs about good news, good things. I do try to share them when there's positive things. Like I just shared something. I'm not saying I'm perfect. That's not what I'm trying to say for people listening, but I'm hoping by sharing it will uplift somebody else who may see it that needs to see or hear and see these kind
Absolutely.
of things go on. This
And
man was in, I was just going to add quickly, this man was in a store with a newborn baby, talking to obviously the mom, going, no, we can't afford that. We can't afford that. We can't afford that. Now, another person, like, don't get me wrong, they filmed it for their channel for whatever reason. I'm not here to judge, but these people ran around behind them. Guy didn't even see, and they were grabbing everything and multiples. They then went into his cart. He didn't know them from a hole in the ground. He's going, what are you doing? Because they were taking stuff out of his cart. They threw it all in this heaping cart, took him to the cash register and paid for it. The guy was crying. Like, what a beautiful thing. Gives me faith in humanity when I see things like that.
And I think that I had lost faith in humanity when I got divorced. Because I was in this bubble.
Yep.
Right? Stuck in this bubble thinking there's no good left on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I had to restore my faith. And that's why the spiritual healing is so important. You have to restore your faith in humanity. And if you change what's inside of you, what you're attracting will change as well. And so you start attracting the good because you see the good in you, because you start exponentially growing the good around you. That's what you're harvesting as well. Right?
Plus, you've tuned your radio frequency for people out there. That by you raising, I used to hate this term, now I get it totally, but raising your vibration or your energy or your radio waves, if you will, you've raised those up to a higher level, right? You're starting to love yourself, be positive, you're starting to heal, and you're putting that energy out there. Like attracts like energy. You're tuning in people that are tuning into your radio station. Or for example, this group of people here, and I know there's incredible people that have listened too. And I've told you guys before, and I mean it, and I've said it to many guests beforehand, I have an incredible audience I'm so grateful for. You guys are the best here in these comments. I don't have to worry about anybody being nasty to somebody, feeling judged, feeling picked on. They love each other. They're kind. They're intelligent. They ask great questions, right? Again, the energy I think you put out, especially with this healing journey that we're talking about with surviving from narcissism, and exactly what you said. You start to get out from that bubble and you start to pull in loving, kind people.
And it's very interesting because if you're in a situation, they did some research about the ghetto, right? So ghetto is where, and they have them all over the world, and that one was particularly in near San Francisco. Okay. And there's a new teacher that went to the school, and he says, "Well, what about this?" And the kids are all looking at him like, "We don't have that. What are you talking about?" And so this guy started introducing music program, and he started introducing other and taking them out and showing them the bubble you live in is very limiting, but it's not the whole world. If you get out of the bubble, you can have a different life. You don't have to stay here. You don't have to be stuck. And that's the mental healing part, is trying to transform the way you think, right? Instead of saying, well, I don't deserve love, so I'll never be loved. Mm-hmm. Then you realize, no, I do, but I have to start loving myself first. Mm-hmm. Right? So taking each of these beliefs and deconstructing them and breaking that bubble that you've been stuck in for however long it has been, and realizing, oh, okay, so it doesn't have to be this way. There's other option. And it's about, that's what helps the transformation, is realizing that the world can be a very good place if you can just cross the threshold and just get out the dark room you're in and get into the light, and then see all the options and what's available to you.
I sometimes like to say, you hear the old saying, think outside the box. I always say I do try to walk the walk of the talk that I do. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but I do try to do that. So I always say, instead of thinking outside the box, how about like we think there is no box? Same thing when you hear people say to me, the amount of people they don't realize, you've got the whole world at your feet. Some people never get outside their own backyard. I know you travel all around the world. One of these days, I will do the same. And it's not like 10 years from now. That's one of the things I want to manifest. I want to go around the world and see the world, not through internet screen. I want to experience it. I want to feel it. I want to meet people. I would love to do that.
And some of those beliefs, they're not necessarily bad beliefs, but my dad used to say, rich people take a plane. Right? So I wasn't rich. So who am I to think that I can go on a plane? Mm-hmm. And then so the first plane ride I took, I was 25. And now I'm like, it's just a faster way to get from A to B. You don't have to be rich. You just get your sail and just go. So I don't have to wait to be immensely rich to travel. I just needed to change my mindset. There's different ways to travel. And I love the backpacking. So we live in hostels. And so I saw Spain, with €1,000. That's all I had. And I was there for a whole month, and I walked all over, and I got to meet the people, So these are the mindset that you can deconstruct and say, no, I don't have to be here to achieve that. And if it's important for me, I can take the steps now to start going towards that dream or that adventure.
I think this is important because Mish says, I think I have a circle. My thoughts go round and around. So maybe.
Yeah, and the mental healing is about breaking that circle and opening it, mm-hmm. and allowing yourself to think differently and experiencing new things. Like for me, because my mother never said I love you, there was a subconscious belief, not conscious, subconscious, mm-hmm. that I wasn't lovable because the person who should have loved me and cherished me and nurtured me never mm-hmm. said I loved you. So there must be something wrong with me. Yeah. Right. So we develop these ideas that we don't necessarily express out loud all the time, but that are stuck inside of us. And now we examine those and we're like, well, hang on a second. I'm ethical. I'm generous. I'm kind. I'm why am I not lovable? There's no reason why someone would not love me.
I hear you.
So it's breaking those cycles and breaking these thoughts and doing this transformation that allows us to come out the other end a completely different person.
I also love thinking about what we've talked about tonight, even back to the beginning about discovering kind of who you are and what you enjoy. The fact of the real encouragement of try something maybe you've never tried, or try it and see if you like it. The worst, really, because there's a lot of people who say, well, what's worse that can happen? I don't like to ask that or say that, but people do say and think that, is the fact that, so what? You don't like it. But what that does too, I think, in going back, and I thought I know Mish, I know her as Michelle, but she puts Mish on her YouTube, is lots of times she'll put some pretty funny little comments, as she has usually, and I appreciate that. But that you made a good point. That's why I highlighted it about the circle. Like you said, you need to break out of it. So in a way, with this healing journey and these steps that you're going to be using through this book, the 12 steps, is that it starts to help you realize that all you got to do is just try. Just give it a little try, right? Because a lot of people, fear really holds them back. And we go back safe and it's familiar, especially if you've grown up with well, you and I both have. So we've grown up with a narcissistic mother and what have you. But right, it's all about growing and learning and experiencing and trying here, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then once we've done that, we can prepare for the next relationship in our life, and not necessarily a partner relationship, but just a friendship. Mm-hmm. So I usually recommend that people stay alone with yourself for a while.
Yeah.
Take the time to be with yourself, because you've run away from yourself for so long. Now, let your inner child catch up to you. Let your soul catch up to you and become whole again. And then you can look at what is a healthy relationship? So we had a few examples when we were talking earlier, but we're so used to bad relationship that we don't even think that, writing a thank you note. I received thank you notes and I was like, what is this? Was I supposed to do that? Nobody's ever told me I was supposed to write thank you notes. Oh my gosh. You know, and once people started texting, you know, I would leave, and by the time I get home, people would say, I had such a great evening. Thank you for your time. And I'd be like, what? Am I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
So when I started making healthy relationship, I started being shocked by all these little things that makes a relationship stronger. That, you know, or someone would say, call me when you get home, it's late. And I'm like, do you really have to? Because that's, you know, I have to remember to call you. And they're like, I won't go to bed until I get the phone call that you're okay. And I'm like, oh. So I actually have to put myself a reminder on my phone. So when I get home, it dings, right? I'm like, oh yeah, right. I'm fine. I'm home. But those are, nobody ever cared before. You know, I would have died on the side of the highway, and no one would have, you know, no one have been known the wiser, right? So it's knowing what a healthy relationship looks like and how you build one. And the final step is to share, is to reach out to other people and share your experience, not just the painful part, but the fact, bring hope to the world and allow others to know that no matter how hard you have it right now, there is a way out, and there's a way that you can be happy, that you can be strong, and that you can be back to being in control of your life and finding the joyous moments. So I think that me coming here and me writing the book is all part of that, is bringing hope to the others that have not, you know, completely healed yet.
Everybody is saying we've got a few minutes left, and I'm going to tell you guys where to go to buy this book. And I will be buying it because you did send me the link. Payday at the beginning of September. I am buying this book, you guys, because I've been living with this my whole life. And like I said, I've been honest with you. I've started the healing process, but there's a few things we talked about tonight that even I hadn't thought about, that I think could be very helpful for everybody. Many people that I find are in the spiritual journey or watching or listening, lots of people, doesn't matter what sex you are, what country, whatever, we've run into this kind of relationship. And I always say to anybody, I think we could all use a little healing, right, as we travel along this journey. So you guys definitely want to check this out. Julie Jean Bassett said, great show tonight. I know Kevin said, I think it was Kevin Z Sun Dragon. He said, great guest and great show. You guys, I said I have a few people I have on a couple times a year at least, or 4 times a year. Sonya's going to be one of those, because I just think she has so much wisdom. She's got incredible books. Some of you weren't here for the previous show, so if you check back even just on my YouTube channel, you will see Sonya's been on here over the last few years quite a few times, because she's incredible. She's got so much knowledge, so much wisdom, and I really appreciate you being here, Sonya. So please tell them how to get a hold of you and get your book.
Okay, well, I'll put it in the comment as well.
I didn't put it in there because I was just going to say, because if I put it in there, it posts like 8 times in a row because I produce a show. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah. So, but, you know, they can get a hold of me with my website. That's sonyaroy.com. And the book is available anywhere in the world. My link is Amazon Canada, just because I'm in Canada. But if you go to Amazon and you put my name and you put the title, you'll
I was looking for it, just so you know, and I can vouch for that, because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss or misspell or anything with the title when I was writing it out. It came up in Amazon India in English. Believe it, it's all over Amazon.
Yeah, and you know, I know my books is being bought all over the world because Amazon pays me by country, right? So I get different countries payouts every month.
Barnes and Noble has it. That came up too. I saw that. Chapters, Indigo, lots of places besides Amazon are carrying it too, right?
Yeah, but I guess for anybody, Amazon's an easy way. But if you go to Chapters or Indigo and you ask them to order the book for you, they can as well. So all my books are available. Yeah.
Other thing I wanted to add, Sonya does much more than just books too, you guys. You definitely want to check her website out. I have talked about the Psyche session I had with you many times on different shows. And so this is the lady I was talking about that I had it with you guys. And I was telling them about my foot, that I can feel it for the first time in 30 years. And that was a session with you. And again, it's life changing, some of the things, and never mind your podcasts that you've done as well. You've got a YouTube channel. There's a lot of wisdom you share with a lot of people. So if you got anything else coming up at all? We got about less than a minute here. So
what do I have coming up? We just finished a bunch of retreats at the center for the summer, so I'm a little tired. So what's coming up is a vacation. And then I'll be in Quebec for the month of October. So anybody needing to see me in person can see me in Quebec. And we're closing the registration for the trip to Peru in about 3 weeks. Okay. So there's still a few spots left. We're getting close to our number, but there's still a bit of room. So if anybody's interested on a shamanic tour of Peru, then that would be the one.
That is awesome. So you guys, I want to tell you very, very quickly, stay tuned. We got more shows coming up right after this. Went a little longer tonight, just because we're hanging out till the last minute now. So that's good too. But we don't start usually till about 10 after the hour. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock. I do readings, I do healing, teaching, and mentoring. Also 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and the Angel Rocker Tribe for more spiritual. Don't forget, we got the thing at the foot of the bed with Lorilei, Potvin, and David Hansel for our show on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. So if you've got show ideas, pictures, I post all the links for the people that are listening only, so you can come in there when we get to 200, and we're building up there, you guys. That group's hasn't been there that long. David and I are going to start going live in the group. So we love you guys. Sonya will be back, I promise you. I send you all so much love and light. I will see you Thursday night, 7 p.m. Can't wait. Thanks again, Sonya.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Have a good one. We'll see ya. I forgot to check who's coming. It's somebody, I think. I can't remember. It's going to be someone awesome. There's always awesome people that come on. I love the guests we have. So we'll see you guys, okay, on Thursday and then next Monday.